Yeah, that was nice. I think maybe we should leave it there.
Okay.
And bring out, you want to bring him out?
Yeah, well, my latest venture, since I'm not doing a podcast, I don't have the patience. You've been doing this for a few years.
You can make it a podcast after you do it. Go ahead,
that.
set it up.
I'm going right to radio. I don't have time for this shit.
And who are you doing the show with?
This guy you might have heard. He's been in a lot of B movies, but he's known for his, he's a sidekick on Howard Stern. Give it up for Mr. Artie Lange, ladies and gentlemen. Artie Lange!
Artie Lange.
Hey, what's up?
Here, Nick.
Wow, everybody was about to leave. That was a respect.
How fucking good does Artie look? How fucking good does he look?
Boy, the lighting must suck in this place. Thank you, though. That was very nice. Everybody leaving. It's like the respect George Goebel used to get on the Tonight Show.
You look fucking great, though. You look clear-eyed. You're a little svelte. You got color in your face.
Yeah, it's the first time I've had color since the late 70s. I started drinking in a dark kitchen in 1981 and didn't come out. But now I feel good. I'm sober. I went to rehab and a couple of psych wards, and, I got a tan.
The psych ward, what the hell was that like?
That was fantastic. I'll tell you haven't lived till you've played Scrabble in a psych ward. This is a true story, I played Scrabble in a psych ward. Here's the Scrabble game. It's me, which already makes it a shitty Scrabble game.
Yeah.
And an 80-pound girl who was a crystal meth addict. And by the way, I learned this in rehab. Crystal meth is a good drug if you need to walk to St. Louis one weekend. And a 400-pound schizophrenic guy who was on Thorazine and methadone, but he didn't get his medication yet.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the Scrabble game. So the Thorazine 400-pound guy goes last. And when it gets to be his turn, there's an open G.
Yeah.
And all he does is put an M and an R next to the G.
Yeah.
So it just says GMR.
Yeah.
Now, I'm scared shit of this guy, so I go, great word. Let's fucking add that up. That is fantastic. Let's just add that up. Gee, what is the M of 3? That's a double letter. And the 80-pound chick, she's pissed. She goes, that's not a word.
Yeah.
This is her cause to fight.
Yeah.
I'm like hitting her under the table. It's a fucking word. It's a fucking word.
Yeah.
I'm like, sweetie, we're in a psych ward playing Scrabble. Life is over. Let's just fucking... Let's just go with it. GMR's a word. She goes, it's not a word. And he goes, yes, it is. And she goes, what kind of word is that? He goes, it's an abbreviation. And she says, for what? And he goes, game room. And if you think about it, GMR might be the abbreviation for game room. He could be right, So, again, I'm scared shit of this guy, so I go, great, let's add that up. What do we got? Let's add it up. And she goes, abbreviations aren't allowed. She's screaming. This is the fight I'm in the middle of.
Yeah.
And he goes, yes, they are. She goes, no, they're not. And he goes, well, you're not a genius like I am. And he goes to punch her in the face. So I get in between them, and I save the woman's life. I'm pretty sure I saved her life.
Yeah.
It would have been like Mayweather Ortiz. I don't think she had a shot. And whether she was looking or not. And I saved the woman's life, which, I'm a little ambivalent about because I don't know if it's a great plus to the planet Earth. She's probably fucking a cat on Christie Street right now. There, arguing with an ATM on Broadway about something. But
how long were you over there? I
was in the psych ward for a month and a half.
After the thing?
I had a couple little issues that I had to deal with. I I was doing drugs at an incredible pace.
Yeah.
And, it was hurting every aspect of my life. I was going on dating sites to try to get dates, Yeah. And they ask you questions on those sites like you're going to be honest, a guy like me. Like one of the questions was, what's the worst thing you've ever done? Like I'm going to get a lot of dates being honest with that question. What's the worst thing I've ever done? Once I kidnapped a baby and traded it for angel dust. What are you doing Friday night? Want to go to Ruby Tuesdays and get some mozzarella sticks or something? Yeah, so I was in trouble, man.
Yeah.
I've been to hell and back, man. I really have. I mean, it's... But I feel good, and I went to rehab for 3 months, the psych ward.
Where'd they send you for the rehab?
I went to rehab down in Florida in the summer, which is fantastic down there in the summer. That's how I got the tan and melanoma. But
when you're in rehab, though, there are people like, Artie.
Yeah.
Artie's here.
That's always great. A guy came up to me who was a cop.
Yeah.
And said, I have your book. If I get my wife to send me your book, will you sign it for me? And he goes, I know this is breaking anonymity, but will you sign the book for me? And I'm like, yeah. So there was a public phone, and you could just hear everyone who was on the phone. So I walk by the phone, and I hear the guy screaming at his wife. He goes, just send me Artie Lange's book. I can't tell you why. So I signed it for him. It was very nice. I went to rehab with a friend of mine, this kid, Anthony. My favorite rehab story this guy has is one time, we're 22 years old, right?
Yeah.
And I'm in the passenger seat of a car, and he's in the front seat, and there's 3 guys in the back, and we're all smoking weed and drinking. And he decides it would be funny to start steering the car with his head.
Yeah.
So he starts steering the car with his head, and we're driving down a main drag in Elizabeth, New Jersey, like on a Tuesday afternoon. Thank you. And he goes, look, guys, I'm steering the car with my fucking head. And we're all high going, it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. And he goes, look, I'm steering the car with my head. And we're like, that's hilarious. But the problem is he did it like a little too long.
Yeah.
And he somehow wriggled his head into the wheel, like, so it was stuck between the horn and the wheel. So now he's high on weed and drunk and stuck in the steering wheel of a moving car. So he starts to freak out and he goes, ah! Ah! And we all think he's still fucking around because we're high. And we go, ah! Now he's screaming and steering the car with his head. He's a comedic genius. So after a couple of minutes, he drives through a bakery window, okay? This really happened. He drives through a bakery window. Now, nobody got hurt, thank God, but when the cops got there, they didn't want him to lose his buzz before they got him out of the wheel.
Yeah.
So as they're cutting him out of the wheel, they give him his sobriety test. So he's like this. And the cop goes, sir, do you know your ABCs? And he's like, yeah. And the cop goes, say them. And he goes, A, B, C. Just fucking arrest me, man.
And they did, right?
And they arrested him, yeah. And,
so, what are you doing for fun now?
Nothing. I don't know what fun is anymore. I like the. I don't know. I'm trying to exercise. That's not going that well.
Are you smoking?
I smoke a ton of cigarettes.
Yeah.
I'm pissed off that Marlboro stopped giving out those miles, man. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have enough for a kayak, but.
What are you doing for exercise?
To exercise, I like playing basketball, but
yeah.
It's tough playing basketball with these 24-year-old kids nowadays because, like, no one just plays anymore. They all, like, run plays like they're the goddamn Knicks, you know? You're guarding a 22-year-old and he tells them, let's high pick and roll, run a high pick and roll, 3-4. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like wearing a Ramones shirt. I don't know what a high pick and roll is. I got a 22-year-old kid mad at me that I can't run a high pick and roll. We're in a fucking game on the playground. It's like, you know, I just had a chicken cutlet. I'm not running a high pick.
So what's the show that you and Nick are doing?
Me and Nick are going to do a sports entertainment comedy type show that is going to be fun. It's like a national network show. Nick and I have been wanting to do. Nick and I, you'll appreciate this. Nick and I were coming back from a gig in Buffalo once.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Nick loves telling this story about we were in Buffalo and we looked at the real estate section of the paper, like what you can get a house for. Like, what is it?
One house is like 14 rooms, 3 Mexican maids, indoor pool, 5 tennis courts, 11,500.
Buffalo's one of those cities where you can get an indoor above ground pool. I guess one of those. And so we're like at the Hampton Inn. We just call each other and go, why don't we just buy 11 houses here and see if something works out? This had to be like 8 years ago. We're coming back from the gig on one of those planes where it's so small, like my head couldn't fit under the overhead.
Yeah, those are
horrifying. Yeah, right. So my head's at like a 45-degree angle, and Nick just says, "Fuck it, Art. Let's just open a pizzeria." I make a good gravy, and I'm like, all right. And so since then, we've wanted to work together, and now we can do a radio. We're going to do a radio show starting in the next couple of weeks together.
Nationally syndicated.
Yeah.
Nationally syndicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I filled in for Dan Patrick a couple times.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I have my little radio show in New York.
Yeah.
You know, the right-wing shit doesn't fly here in Manhattan, so it's easy to talk about, you know. But we're going to do very limited sports, because I know I can see your crowds drooling over a sports fucking show right here. But, it's like sports at our convenience, because it's a 10 o'clock at night show, so by the time 10 p.m. rolls around, you've heard about everything. So it's not X's and O's.
Yeah, it's just going to be you guys sitting around talking.
We'll steer it into race stuff.
Maybe you can launch from the sports into race.
Well, yeah. Sports is a microcosm of society. It really is.
No, it is.
That's the shit we're going to talk about. We're not talking X's and O's, so you might be interested.
I used to be a degenerate gambler, too, which is why I dress like this. But so I don't do that anymore, because that's what we call a trigger, you know. But it's no fun betting all the money you have in the world and not doing coke watching the game. What fun would that be?
No fun. You got to layer that shit, man.
So you got to layer that. Layer's the perfect word. But because of the gambling thing, I know a lot about sports, and so does Nick. So it should be a fun show. I think we're gonna have a good time.
Well, I'm so happy you're fucking healthy and alive,
man,
and it was great to see you.
Thanks, Mark.
Artie Lange, Nick DiPaolo, Nick
you.
Griffin, Joe Mandy, Elna Baker, Ira Glass, Wayne Kostenbaum, Morgan Spurlock. What a fucking amazing show. I really appreciate you coming out. Thank you for listening to WTF. You're a great audience. Kick on that music.